So, welcome back. We have a nice looking landing page. It's taking shape quite nicely here. We have a nav bar with some links. They don't work yet, but we'll set them up in a bit. We have a header with some titles and subtitles. Have the section 1 with some cards. This would probably be our about section. And before moving on to section 2, I just wanted to go through Animate.css first. So Animate.css is a tool which is very useful to help us create, interactive websites with a bit of animation. So it's not that static, and it's quite of a quick win when we're learning to build websites. So if we type in Animate.css in Google, we'll get to the first link. So used to be Animate.css, but it's moved to Animate style. .style is still called Animate.css, and we can just add with it different animations to text or cards, images, or anything. So we have some examples here, and if we scroll down to the documentation, so this is always the first thing that we want to read. We have installation and usage guide. So it starts with install with npm, but we don't know what that means yet. So we can just scroll down to the second option where it says or add it directly to your page using a CDN. So we already have our head tag. We don't need to copy that. We just need to copy the link inside the head tag. With Control-C, Command-C, we can navigate back to our index HTML and can paste this just above our own style sheet. So we want our style sheet to always be on the last one, right? Because otherwise we avoid overriding our own styles. If this was after, or any other styles after my own style sheet, I could override my styles. But in this way, make sure that our styles are always in place. So we paste in the Animate.css link here and move on to reading about basic usage. So we have the animated class. It says add the class to an element along with any of the animation names, and don't forget the animate prefix. We have an example here, and we can just copy this to use. So we have an h1 element with a class of animated, and then space. So that means that's a second class. We can have as many classes as we want, separated by spaces. So these are two classes. If I just copy the whole class and attach it to my h1, save this. If I refresh here, I can see that I've got the bounce animation. Every time I refresh the page, it bounces once. It does the animation once. So if we continue reading the documentation, we can see that we can also set it through CSS. We have to add these two properties, animation and animation duration. We can, for example, copy these and add them to our h3 this time. If we paste them here, we can just check another animation. So we can do swing, for example. So we can just copy the name swing, save this. We have duration 2 seconds. So maybe we want it to go 5 seconds. We want it to be, slower and longer. You can see that it is swinging, and it's taking 5 seconds to do so. So that's how to add it with CSS. And if we can continue reading through the properties, it has other utility classes. So you can have delay classes, and we can say we want to delay the animation by 5 seconds. So that means if it should start once the h3 stops. So if I just add the delay class here, just space, and then add the delay class, I refresh now, so it should be doing this for 5 seconds, and once this finishes, this should start bouncing, yeah, because I gave it 5 seconds delay. I can also animate faster. We have slow, slower, fast, faster. And we also have classes for repeating. So we can say repeat. As we can see, it only does it once. We can say repeat 2 times, repeat 3. And we can even say animate infinite, which will do it an infinite number of times, which obviously is not recommended because it might become annoying to your users and also heavy on the website, but it will now bounce infinitely. Maybe we're gonna just gonna have it bounce 3 times instead. So instead of this class, I'll replace it with this class. Okay, so that's how to use Animate CSS. Let's apply one on one of the cards as well. So maybe we want the cards to back out down or bounce out. Let's try bounce out. So we can do something interesting with CSS, and we can make it animate only when we hover over it. So now we have a bit of interactivity from the user as well. So our cards is the section 1 text. So we can select it by section 1 text, but we can say this time only on hover. So colon hover, and we can copy the properties from here and just bounce out. So I'll delete this. I'm just gonna go again. So it was called bounce out, and I just want the name of it. So bounce out. Right, this means that only when I hover over the card it will put the animation in place. So let's see. So there we go, that worked. Right, so it's doing it on all of the cards because it's a class, so I applied the style to all the classes, to all the divs of the same class. So I hope you found this useful and fun, and good luck finding new ways of using Animate CSS on your page. And we'll be back with section 2 and responsive images after.